The San Onofre nuclear power plant sits on the California coast midway between Los Angeles and San Diego, so close to the ocean that waves lap up near its seawall. It's in an active earthquake zone, and so is the nuclear plant at Diablo Canyon near San Luis Obispo, which was built directly over a geological fault. In the wake of the catastrophe in Japan and fears of radioactive meltdown at the stricken Fukushima Daiichi nuclear plant, nuclear industry officials in the U.S. have been quick in seeking to reassure the public that there's nothing to worry about here.
We can say with confidence, the confidence of some very recent science, that our operators can shut this plant down and protect the nearby residents in the most significant earthquake this region would probably experience.
The Obama administration sees nuclear as a way of combating global warming and easing reliance on foreign oil. It has included $36 billion in loan guarantees for new plant construction in its 2012 budget.
U.S. power plants are designed to very high standards for earthquake effects.
Geologists believe the worst quake possible near San Onofre would be a magnitude 6.5. The buildings are made to survive a 7.0 quake, and the seawall is over 7 meters high. The utility that operates this nuclear power plant and the federal government that regulates it both believe that it's built to withstand the biggest earthquakes and tsunamis that are ever likely to hit this stretch of coast. Of course, the Japanese believe the same thing about their nuclear power plant, too. The news from Japan suggests that even the most advanced scientific predictions may be inadequate when it comes to rare but extremely destructive events.
But ultimately, a question that these terrible images poses is, this is the cost of nuclear power, and are we willing to accept that cost?
Senior lawmakers in Washington say the inability of scientists to be certain how hard a blow nature can strike at any given place and time is reason enough to put a moratorium on new nuclear plant permits.
We have to listen to what is happening in Japan and protect ourselves and our people.
The federal government is currently considering applications for 20 new nuclear plants in the U.S. Rob Reynolds, Al Jazeera, San Onofre, California.
And so we are just the same day that we had a third explosion at the Fukushima nuclear plant. We all know that there's 2 nuclear reactors are the biggest in the world because it counts about 11 reactors, so not 1, not 2, not 3, but 11. And so I'd like to say something. What we have right now as a new information in Japanese TV is this. A show, TV show, showing us where we can eat a good pizza. We have all the funny people here on the TV who are smiling, who are enjoying. This is the 12th channel. This is the 4th channel. Look at this, look at this, look at this. We are almost reaching a Chernobyl nuclear level right now. Look at what we have at the television. You know, listen to this. Huh? What a beautiful life. What do you think about this? Look at this one. Look at this one. Okay? Look, I don't want to expose more. There's people who are doing the job that government asks them to do. This has nothing to do with these people. What I want to say is this. Since the explosion this morning, we have no more information here in Japan. We have no information since the last explosion. What they say, the people don't. What they tell us since this morning is, don't worry, you have nothing to fear. We all know that this Fukushima nuclear plant is the biggest in the world and is in fire. I mean, all the reactors have exploded already, and what they tell us is, don't worry, you have no fear to fear. And we live here at 200 kilometers in Tokyo. So this is my message. All of you guys, please just help to make this video spread all over the internet. We want to know the truth. That's all we ask. We want to know the truth. If a megapole like Tokyo of 30 million people should be evacuated to minimize the death.
Hello everyone, welcome to Global Government News. Today is Friday, St. Patrick's Day, March 17th, 2011, and I'm Darko. Welcome everyone to this news bulletin. I usually ask my listeners to check out my website, www.ggnonline.com. That's ggnonline.com. There's a poll up here. It's going to be up here for about 4 more days. It's how much danger does Japan's nuclear radiation epidemic in Japan affect the rest of the world? 69% of the voters said very much, followed by a tie. 15% said somewhat, and the rest says not sure. You can go on here. All my videos are posted. You can subscribe via email. You can track me on Blogger, or you can go down all the way to the bottom of the website, and there's a little Facebook part where you can have network blogs, so you can follow me there. So, otherwise, my YouTube channel is DDarko2012. All right, now I have a lot of good news here. Well, it's not all positive news, but you know what I'm saying. I have a lot of good news here. Like the individual is saying, they just want the truth, right? And that's pretty much all I want too, so I try to help with doing that. And so you got all these graphs out there and charts and stuff floating around YouTube with animations of radiation clouds flowing or flying and flowing over the Pacific, and you know, the next 124 hours and what it's going to do. And so I don't want to incite fear here, and I'm not telling you to rush out and get iodine pills. So I'm just going to present the news that I found on the internet. And you guys have to decipher it for yourself. U.S. military blocks websites to help Japan recovery efforts. Says the U.S. military has blocked access to a range of popular commercial websites in order to free up bandwidth. You can call that censorship, right? Because you just saw what was going on that TV from, I look like a French person who is a Japanese citizen or a longtime resident, was watching on his TV, and what was it? It was nothing but just, what is it, cannon fodder for the brain, right? It's not anything important. I mean, think about it. If they were freeing up bandwidth, they would be giving important news bulletins, and every channel would be just flooded with information to help people make better informed decisions. But no, they have fluff crap on TV. So that's what they're clearing up the bandwidth. That's what they're censoring websites out for. And it says, for use in Japan recovery efforts, according to an email obtained by CNN. And the sites include YouTube. So YouTube, go figure. ESPN, Amazon, eBay, and MTV were not chosen because of the content, because of their popularity among users of military computers account for significant bandwidth. So there you go. And then we'll move on. U.S. to fly unmanned spy drones over crippled nuclear plant for closer look. And I've also come across an article recently, but I didn't want to cover it only because I don't know how factual it is, but it was an InfoWars article basically reporting on the CIA being sent, diplomats and that being sent over to Japan, along with the military, of course, the Navy, but CIA basically to control the information that's flowing around there. And they're doing a pretty good job of it, I must say, if that is true. But like I said, that's, for me, it's just pure speculation on that. It says here, U.S. military will operate a Global Hawk unmanned high-altitude reconnaissance aircraft over a stricken nuclear power plant in Fukushima, and possibly on Thursday, to take a closer look in its troubled reactors. And then we'll move on here. Bungling cover-ups define Japanese nuclear quake. And it says here, behind Japan's escalating nuclear crisis sits a scandal-ridden energy industry and conflict relationship with government regulators, often willing to overlook safety lapses. And, you know, all I want to say here is, if you look at that Al Jazeera video with those American representatives, quote, experts and scientists, they're all lying to you. They're lying straight to your face. I don't care what they say. There is nothing that they can do to stop a HARP or natural induced earthquake, especially when a tsunami hits, because that's what's going to happen on the West Coast. They're going to get hit by a tsunami, just like Japan after like an 8 or 9.0 earthquake rocks this Cascadian subduction zone. So when that happens, there will be a humongous, at least 100-foot tsunami blanketing the West Coast. And you saw where that thing was. And you really believe those AWIPes telling people on in the news, saying that everything's going to be okay, there's not going to be a crisis, right? So when I hear that now, I just take it as what it is. It's just a flat-out lie. So it says Pentagon cover-up of data on Fukushima disaster. Japan Times reported the Pentagon will send an unmanned Global Hawk on whatever we just covered that. And it says here the flight is basically unnecessary and represents a PR spin. Both the Pentagon and the Japanese government know full well the severity of the situation at the Fukushima plant, and they are not releasing the information to either Japanese or American people. The Pentagon is responsible for developing nuclear technology and has particle detectors, also known as radiation detectors, positioned around the world. The USS George Washington and Reagan, both now parked off Japan, are outfitted with radiation detection technology. In addition, the radiation can be tracked by the U.S. Air Force Constant Phoenix jets, which are designed to monitor airborne fallout from nuclear weapons tests. And it says here, the Pentagon and the government know full well the extent of the unprecedented disaster, and it is far worse than they are telling us. It says they are not about to level with the American people, who will find out later this week and in the weeks ahead how severe and life-threatening the situation really is. And it says here, as we reported over the weekend, the CIA's U.S. aid was dispatched to micromanage the release and spin of information on the disaster. Yoichi Shimutsu, the former editor of the Japan Times Weekly, told CCTV a large-scale cover-up is unfolding. Quote, the CIA, through U.S. aid, is running a disinfo campaign on Japan's earthquake-crippled nuclear facilities for geopolitical reasons. A lot of it has to do with economical reasons. I'll cover that in the next couple of videos. With Benjamin Fullerman talking about how the Japanese were approached by the elites, basically the bankers, international bankers, and they were forcing them into a corner economically. And if they didn't, they would buzz them with a HAARP-induced earthquake. And says here, the Japanese people will ultimately suffer, as will millions of other people who have been or happen to have been downwind from the stricken plant, we wrote at the Times. And we're going to move on here. It says here, Japan earthquake, Japan warned over nuclear plants, WikiLeaks cable show. So now it's all just about blame Japan, right? So if they were buzzed by, if they were, some people I've heard leave nasty comments about, what are the stupid Japanese doing with nuclear plants? You know, Japan's nothing but fault lines. Well, I hate to break it to you, but where is the nearest oil from Japan? The Middle East. So Japan is really the furthest away from oil. And I don't think they have any natural gas reserves. So they don't have any energy, Japan. And, all these people that is going into the Pearl Harbor thing, the reason the Japanese bombed Pearl Harbor is because they were running out of oil. They were built up by the West. That's right, guys. They were built up by the West. In the late 1800s, their military might and their imperial army was built up by the West. And then they ran out of oil, and they left them, the U.S. and them basically cut them out and put embargoes and that on the oil, and left Japan with no other choice but to bomb Pearl Harbor. And of course, they let it happen so that they can bring it into this whole war, and it's a big thing, right? But so yeah, they don't have energy, so they have, they're kind of again in this corner where they have to do some kind of energy in order to compete globally. They have these nuclear plants, so. They're not the only ones, and I just want to point out here something that I noticed just through this whole situation going on is that if you look at the Mississippi, what is the Mississippi? It is what? The New Madrid fault line. And where are all these nuclear plants? Well, a lot of them are located right along the New Madrid fault line. So like I said, those people that were talking in the beginning, the quote, experts are lying flat out to your face. If an earthquake happens on the West Coast, there's a good chance that it could happen and trigger the New Madrid. And if that happens, all of those nuclear plants along the Mississippi, because I need that water, that fresh water, will spill, and it will go straight into the Gulf, mix in with the BP, and we're just talking about, man, that's just some pretty ugly stuff if that's the case. So let's just, hope and pray. I've been praying a lot lately that it doesn't get any worse than it is or already is. So. Japan nuclear crisis can be worse in history. A French nuclear expert has warned Japan's crisis could surpass the Chernobyl disaster as the worst nuclear accident in history if the situation is not under control in 48 hours. And this is March 17th. Fukushima Mark 1 nuclear reactor design caused GE scientists to quit and protest. Japan utility struggles to maintain power levels. Japan's hardest hit areas await food and aid. And a lot of people out there are still hurting. And look at this. Stop the delay on donations to Japan. You can petition and sign that on this website, chance.org. Basically, the donations are not getting to the people. It says here, new crisis, water spray is having little effect. So having a little effect with spraying the water. You can join me in part 2 of this news bulletin. This is GGN, and I'm Darko. Thank you.